Prepare yourselves for a powerhouse panelist with pixels in his veins and muscle to match. He's not just a lover of indie games, he's a lifter of the underdogs, a champion of the quirky and the creative. I'm talking about the back-to-back silver medalist in Super Smash Bros. And the newest member of the Gaming on AVAX team. Get ready to rumble with the indie icon, the Smash Bros. Slayer. It's Wills.
Love it. Very quick with the updated intro, Sam. Doesn't miss a beat. Good to be back.
What's your
I'm
main?
trying my best.
What's your main in Smash Brothers?
Oh, K. Rool.
Oh my gosh, man! It's all about Steve, but okay.
Oh, okay. So you just don't like having people have fun when they're around you. I
No.
respect that,
It's just about winning at all costs. I thought.
Back to the pad. I get it.
Look, I play with my kids. Okay, I have to destroy them. Actually, they destroy me. I hate Steve. I only play as Min Min.
Jigglypuff main stand up.
Because I just spam buttons. That's all I do.
Up next, this man isn't just gaming royalty. He's a visionary who took Parallel, the world's top NFT trading card game, from promising project to an international sensation. Once a rock star, he traded guitar solos for digital domination, now orchestrating the strategic symphonies that created Tau Ceti, a 3v3 extraction shooter, and the newly beta-launched Wayfinder, which aims to change the way crypto's engaged with forever. He's also crafting a competitive crescendo worthy of Sin City itself, with a $500,000 Parallel tournament culminating in Las Vegas later this year, or sorry, next year, I guess. It's the king of the cards, the prince of the parallels, the unofficial office supplier of Gamified. You know it's Koji.
What's up, man? I'm happy to be back. This is like the one thing that I was sad that I was missing all the times. I guess the last 3 weeks. I didn't even realize. I felt like longer, but yeah. Hopefully, I'm still as crotchety as ever. I've been relaxing a lot, so I might be a little bit more laid back. We'll see.
or you could come back even hotter because you're re-subjected to all the bullshit that the space has to offer. We'll find out over the next 2 hours. And of course, up next, this man doesn't just discover diamonds in the rough. He polishes them, sets them in platinum, and lets them shine on the world stage. He's the architect of achievement, the kingmaker of content creators, and the benefactor of budding esports legends, because he's given countless gamers their first taste of triumph and creators their moment in the spotlight. It's the emperor of esports, the chief simplifying officer, fresh off the TGE at Magic Eden. It's Knock.
Yo, Sam guilt tripped me into joining this because he gave me a new intro, and I'm actually on a call right now. This is fucking incredible. Appreciate you, Sam. I'm glad I came to listen in.
He's too rich for all of us now, but thanks for coming, Knock. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for tuning in today. You're going to get your Knock airdrop. He's actually going to be providing Magic Eden tokens to all of us. He told me not financial advice, of course. If you need a financial advisor, consult Knock. No, of course, I'm kidding. No financial advice anywhere to be found on this show or any others that I employ. But up next, you got to prepare to be in awe of a man whose very presence could make a pixel blush and a platform tremble. He kicked off his career by giving us Age of Empires, the game that taught us history could be way cooler with catapults and castles. And if that wasn't enough, he jumped into the mobile arena with Words with Friends, the only game where your mom, your grandma, and your weirdly competitive cousin all think they're linguistic geniuses. And he's a 5-time founder who exited Zynga for a cool $180 million, having conquered PC, mesmerized mobile, vaulted into VR, and now he's breaking crypto one block at a time. He's the prodigy of play, the patron saint of pioneering games. It's prolific. Paul Bettner.
That was a great intro, and now everybody knows the truth about me, which is I don't really make games for degens. I make games for Midwest moms. Okay, that's been true of my career. There are 500 million Midwest moms that play a game I made, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to make a game that tops that. So my key demographic is Midwest moms, and if you're not a Midwest mom, then I don't know, go join a different space.
Yo, Paul's coming after your mom.
Or get your mom on here. That's what I'm actually talking about. We're going to get your mom to drop fat stacks on crypto, y'all. Let's go.
This was actually Knock's entire Honeyland thesis, which, if you've looked at the Honeyland token price, has not played out super well. But I do believe that there's something there for the future. The next 10 years of crypto, maybe not the next 10 months, but moms will come, including mine, who unfortunately, I was at our Basel last week. I wasn't able to roast Jerry myself, but my mom literally sends me a text and goes, I just saw a video of you and Jerry standing side by side. He's not 6'5". He's not 300 pounds. What are you talking about? I was like, yeah, he's full of shit. Up next, he's the ace up Web3 sleeve and the wild card in the world of wagering. This next guest didn't just play the hand he was dealt, he reshuffled the entire deck, turning Macau into a glittering jackpot of high stakes and poker power. From risky rolls to royal flushes, he gambled big and won even bigger, making moves that rival the boldest bluffs in the business. Now he's going all in Web3 with my angry Yakuza girlfriend, stacking his chips on innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, bet it all on the Sultan of Stacks, the Titan of Taboo. It's Sinjin.
Boo, yeah, I'm here. I'm like tired as fuck at 6 a.m. in the morning here in Seoul. Cold as fuck, but it's good to be back in the homeland. Thank you for having me. I plan to eat as many souls as I can today.
Sinjin at 6 a.m. sounds so incredibly awake. I don't know if the show panel can handle it. Power overwhelming coming out of the Titan of Taboo. Excited for around 7:15. I think that's going to be the sweet spot whenever he really starts to rally. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be dazzled by the man who can juggle millions like they're marbles and manage a budget bigger than your wildest dreams. He's the architect behind Glitter Cloud Solutions, a sparkling Web3 consultancy with a name as sweet as the daughter who inspired it. He's not just a financial wizard, he also once wielded a $100 million budget at Twitch Prime, but he's also a beloved figure in the world of Web3 gaming. Let's give a warm welcome to the Titan of Twitch, the Baron of the Budgets. It's Tony V.
Let's go, boys! Excited to be here. It's been a while since I've been on Gamified. Can't wait to dive in with the boys.
Always great to have Big Tony. And ladies and gentlemen, get ready to meet the next mastermind merging legal brilliance with digital daring. The architect of Andromeda and the compliance czar with Securities and Exchange Commission passed as a lawyer who makes loopholes tremble in their boots. As an executive producer at Brilliant Holdings, he seamlessly blends Web3 and gaming, proving that crypto compliance can be cool and on-chain gaming can be groundbreaking. Welcome to the panel, the ace of Andromeda, the loose cannon of the law. For his first appearance on Gamified, it's Michael Christine.
Hey, yo, what up, Sam? Thank you so much for having me. Really, really hyped to talk about some topics today, especially after all the craziness of Art Basel last week. It's good to return to normalcy. So let's get it.
Oh, we are going to get it. Michael delivered some amazing manga and comic books to so many of the people at Art Basel. It was great to meet you in real life. He's a gem. If you ever get a chance to meet him in person, you should take it up. This next military man served 5 years as an explosive ordnance disposal technician. Try saying that 5 times fast. Earning several medals, including the esteemed Purple Heart. His passion for blockchain gaming ignited in 2013 as an active Bitcoin trader and crypto collector. Not one to rest on his laurels, though. He co-founded Blockchain at Berkeley, San Francisco Blockchain Week, Decrypt Capital, and Marana Ventures. Now is the co-founder of Game 7 and the self-proclaimed lead janitor at Summon. He's not taking himself too seriously either. Welcome to the panel from Game 7. It's John Allen.
What's going on, man? Appreciate the kind intro and happy to be back. I'm ready to dive into it with everybody. It's a good group.
It's been about 15 weeks, but John made quite an impression last time. Excited to have you back in now. Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves for the fearless firecracker of fun, the pint-sized power player who always comes in clutch with the quips. At a mighty 2.4 pounds, he's the tiny titan with 10 times the attitude, the charming chameleon of chatter. My co-host is Lambs.
GM. Oh, fresh intro for Lens today. Thank you, sir. I'm excited to get into this one. I feel like we got a real good blend of Web3 and trad gaming today. So yeah, it should be a good one.
Shout out to the Little Lizard legend. Excited to jump in to our first topic of the day, but real quick, got to give a huge shout out and standing ovation to the unstoppable juggernaut making Gamified possible. It's Avalanche, the official chain of Gamified. Avalanche isn't just faster, cheaper, and more featured packed than the rest. It's where gaming royalty resides. Whether you're battling for survival in the cinematic shooter Off the Grid, exploring the enchanted worlds of Korea's masterpiece MapleStory, or diving into any of the S-tier games redefining fun on their ecosystem, Avalanche is the playground where Web3 gaming lives. Thanks to Avalanche for making Gamified possible as the official chain of Gamified. And at Gamified, we aim to be the best show in Web3 every single week, and no one embodies that cosmic ambition quite like our sponsor and new official game. It's Star Atlas. This high-fidelity space titan has been blasting through the Web3 gaming galaxy with optimal player ownership and top-notch tech, like having over 1,000 concurrent players in a single environment during a closed surge playtest. Plus, the Golden Carnival is giving away $4 million in prizes, so get those golden tickets for the official game of Gamified. Thank you to Star Atlas for sponsoring our voyage through the gaming universe. And of course, our newest sponsor, it's Game 7, the official infrastructure of Gamified. They're the gateway to a world where gamers rule the realm with a terrific toolkit that includes Summon, the secret weapon for player retention, Hyperplay, your fast pass to discovering Web3 wonders, and World Builder, the sandbox where in-game economies are engineered to perfection. add in their G7 token, connecting it all, and you've got a game changer. Thank you to Game 7 for being the official infrastructure of Gamified. Oh, it sounds so good. I'm excited for 2025. It's going to be a great year. Up first on the docket today, a new report claims that gamers are spending more time watching videos about gaming than they are actually playing games. Yes, we have finally crested that threshold. The question is, up or down from here? Here's a little bit more context. Gamers typically spend 7 hours a week gaming, and now they spend 8 hours a week watching games and streams. The report claims, quote, this highlights the untapped potential for game publishers to bring video content inside of their own ecosystems. So, do you agree with that take? Should people be bringing the game streaming into their own ecosystems? I've seen a couple people do this. Dota has the international play inside of their game client. League of Legends had Worlds play inside of their game client. And do you expect this number to go up or down from here? Let's say specifically the 8 hours that people are watching games instead of playing games. Do you expect that 8 hours to go up or down? Koji, let's send it to you first, buddy.
It's going up, man. It's going up. I think more and more as people stop watching traditional forms of entertainment, movies, TV, etc., and just turn to things like YouTube and TikTok and other sort of more user-generated stuff, the idea of people watching people play games is only going to go up, and especially when the media becomes more and more accessible. You know, it's not just there was a point in time when like you can only play games in front of the the I guess you could play mobile games, but mostly it's in front of the TV, in front of your computer, in front of your console, in front of your whatever. Uh, and people don't like that form of active entertainment as much as they like passive oh God, I can't speak. It's the same reason you see podcasts go up, right? Like people want to do things passively, and so like while they're on a commute or on the toilet or whatever, they're probably just going to watch content created around games as opposed to actually play games themselves, especially if their hands are full.
Yeah, great point there. Jerry had the hand up next.
Yeah, and Sam, I'm a little cross with you and your mom. If she insults me and you skip my intro, I
Oh,
guess
fuck.
I'm not built for Midwest moms. Sorry, Mrs. Stephanie, and I'll never lie to you again, baby. I think it's going up only, and it's going to go up in a pretty drastic amount of hours. I think. This was trending for a while, and I think the pandemic really unlocked hours for people to play video games. But I think look at before the pandemic, that number was probably getting really close. The pandemic, changed a lot of things, but now as people have had this return to normalcy, and not a lot of people have a lot of time to play games as much as they used to. But we are seeing, exactly what Koji said. People don't watching a streamer has replaced like watching a TV show for people or watching, some shitty reality show or watching like season 19 of The Bachelor. So, people are invested in who these creators are and who these streamers are. And as the world just continues to get more and more bite-sized with entertainment, you can't watch a clip of Arcane on TikTok and get the full context of something. But you can watch somebody who, rips open a card pack on TikTok and feel the value in that. And so and feel like a really immerse form of entertainment and just have fun doing that. So, I think even excluding like short form content, that number is probably way higher if you start to include things like that, right? So I think it's only going to get that gap is just going to widen and it's going to do so at a very very rapid pace. I think.
My apologies, Jerry. You're right. I skipped the intro, and it's a shame because I rewrote you a new one today too. It's going to be special, but we'll just call it the penalty for lying about your size and weight. We'll be back on track next week. Of course, Jerry, the Golden God singer from Uptick. Let's send it over to John Allen. John, you see this number going up or down? 8 hours of watching people play video games per week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not going to break kind of the theme here, right? It's like I think it's definitely going up, and I think to your point, right, where you're talking about like, will people start bringing these things to the platform? I think it's like a no-brainer, right? It helps with distribution, engages a larger audience, helps with those daily active users metrics, right? Maybe they play the game more. So I mean, I think it's kind of a no-brainer, and I think kind of like aligned with some of the other folks here, right? It's like there's a lot of reasons for it.
it's more accessible, fits into our busy lives. Like I think the social element aspect of it, just being able to chat with people and have this like loose social ties is like really compelling to folks. There's kind of like this rise, especially with COVID and increasingly digitized world, that people are increasingly lonely. And if you're in chat, sharing experiences with people, sharing memes, right? It's like that kind of makes you feel some sense of attachment. So I think that's really sticky. The other aspect, like help players learn the game, and like kind of previously said, it's kind of almost seen as entertainment. It's like a lot of people have never played football, but they watch the NFL. But I think like one thing I wanted to like kind of like throw out there is, this question really reminds me of like I watched this really long video. It was called like "Why It's Rude to Suck at Warcraft." And it kind of made me like think, right? Because it kind of talks about how like it used to be kind of more free play, right? Now it's very directed play, and it's almost like rude to not know the meta. It's rude not to have like game optimal play, just because there's so many videos and guides and streamers and things that are so accessible out there that it's like if you're not doing it, you're not doing your homework. Like, what are you doing, right? But I think it's kind of like a concern, right? Because I think some of my fondest memories of gaming were just like me and the guys like screwing around on Xbox, just playing complete trash, right? And then it's like now it's like people get so good, it's so accessible to get so good, and so it's like, are you going to start seeing games that are more optimized for streaming with these super high skill caps because that's what's going to get views, right? Instead of just having these games that are just generally fun to play and you're just screwing around trying to figure it out as you go, right? Rather than being like, oh, do you see the latest guide? Do you know the current meta? Because like every game that comes out, there's all these strategy guides. There's all these like things that if you're viewing, and like most of them have a rank component, and it's like if you're not viewing them, if you're not bleeding edge up to date, if you don't have the guide open while you're playing, it's like you're just not going to do as well. And so it's like really like, are we building games for fun, or are we building games to be like the next NFL, next entertainment, have such a high skill cap that you have these pros that are just doing stuff you can't even imagine, and people are just becoming an audience to it rather than engaged participants. And so I mean, that's kind of like my edge take. If I can kind of like like kind of take this question and kind of shift it into my own interests, I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm curious about too, if a bunch of people agree that this number is only getting larger, does that risk that there's like an epidemic of people only wanting to watch games, and as that time trickles down, it becomes harder and harder to monetize? People might be in your ecosystem as viewers, but are they ever spending actual money in your game, and does that viewership end up actually helping you? Also, I got to give a shout out, Justin Gary. Sorry I was late bringing you up, brother, but it's a special treat. The youngest world champion in MTG history. That's Magic the Gathering, CEO of Soulforge. And I've heard rumors have it, Justin Gary, he doesn't draw cards. Cards reveal themselves to him in reverence. So excited to tag him in whenever he's ready. Let's send it over to Michael Christine, the tatted lawyer, for his take on this one.
Yeah, so I absolutely believe the number's going to go up. I don't actually think that there's any kind of issue with people playing the game, because what I've seen is a lot of times these games that get to or excuse me, are exposed to a much bigger audience because of these streamers. And I actually disagree a little bit with the prior speaker in terms of the only streamers people watch are the ones that are the sweatiest. I actually think there's a pretty large spectrum in terms of what streamers you want to watch and why you watch them. A lot of it, sometimes for some specific viewer, it might be like, I want to see the best players playing, but for other viewers, they might literally just enjoy the times that they're having with these streamers and like the environment that these streamers make. And another reason that I think this is about to drastically go up is a lot of game studios right now are experimenting with the idea of integrating prediction markets into their games. And we've seen what happened to like the NFL, with fantasy sports, and now obviously with the DraftKings integration, same thing with the NBA, and obviously all the other major sports leagues. Like that has skyrocketed, not ratings, but at least people kind of watching the games, watching them on the various different streaming platforms, et cetera, because they're now, essentially gambling on them. So I think viewership's going to go up, and I think the way we view games is going to change to become a lot more similar to what we see in like the traditional classical major sports leagues.
That's a very interesting angle on it. Let's send it over to Wild Paul, the man that's innovated on the cusp of every new
Nope,
technology.
I gotta go last. You gotta do me
All
last.
right. All right. I want to tag in Justin Gary then. Justin, thanks so much for joining us, man. What's your take? Is this number going up or down from here?
Yeah, I'm definitely on the going up category here. I believe that like games are successful not just because the game is fun, but because the community thrives, because people feel like they're a part of something that's bigger than themselves. Like even when I was playing Pro Magic and like actually at the top of the competitive latter, it wasn't the game itself that drew me. It was the fact that I was part of a tribe and people that were traveling around the world and doing the thing. And that was what kept me coming back for year after year, and the friends that I kept for decades. And now this streaming gives people the opportunity to be a part of that without necessarily being the guy at the top, right? Or the person at the top. You can have in the difference of being able to play and stream on something like YouTube or Twitch or TikTok or whatever, where people can comment, where they can see the other people that are watching. It helps to build that larger sense of tribe. And that's not just like growing the hours spent on streaming, it's growing the people that participate and join your ecosystem. So your comment earlier being concerns of like people being able to monetize or play the game, I think this is just like growing that pie. And so you're going to see more and more people playing the game as well as streaming. So I think it's just a net positive, and I think everybody has to look for this when you're building a game, like what we've been, when you're building your own game, you got to think, how do I grow that and make people feel like they're part of that bigger tribe? So I think it's going to keep going up, and I think it's positive for the community overall.
Yeah, great take there. I can say without a doubt from my time playing Hearthstone semi-competitively, from trying to play StarCraft competitively, etc. Being able to LARP through somebody else's stream and actually see what it's like to have 300 actions per minute and know every card that's going to come up before it comes up is a great joy and something I've learned to appreciate a lot. So thanks to all the pro streamers that make that possible. Let's go to Will's, and then I'm going to tag in Knock.
Well, I mean, the first point of the attractiveness of like watching people play games is I never have to know how bad I am at a game if I never play it. I watch somebody else play it. And I think that, I think it was alluded to earlier, this idea of like games becoming this almost kind of like luxury experience that is only for the select few that can master them, and then the plebeians can simply watch the masters, crush these super complex and, hard competitive games. And I think, as you were just saying about, building a tribe and a community, this works at a massive amount of scale. But if your game is a fixed experience, and it's getting harder and harder for people to play games, they're much more likely, like I have a bunch of friends who, when God of War came out, they were like, oh yeah, God of War is great, have you played it? No, I just watched the walkthroughs. And there's a bit of sapping from those kind of experiences that you see, where people are less likely to really dive in. But on the larger sort of multiplayer experiences, it's definitely a net positive. But I think it's also worth taking into account what it does to more traditional kinds of games.
Great take from Wills. Couple of awesome ones in the comments too. PD6, a big fan of the show, says Tatted Lawyer has the W. Based take saying that it's not just the sweaty gamers slash esports that draw attention. Yeah, true as well. What's her name? Iron Mouse, I think, just broke the all-time sub record that Kai Cenat recently took back. Definitely not a competitive gamer, but has a diehard community. Katie Drake Bettner, wife of Paul, also says everyone in this space is lucky that it's Paul on and not me because I'm losing my mind. I don't know what's going on with Katie. We'll try to find out in the meantime. Sorry you're having a rough one. Let's send it over to Knock.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna go up and like way the fuck up. I mean, this is part of like a much larger trend across all media channels, but let's look at like just live streaming as an example here. From 2012 until 2019, Twitch was the undisputed king. Every major streamer on the planet was streaming on Twitch, and then you had teams like Mixer and YouTube, and then later Kick kind of come in and sort of vamp a lot of that talent. They brought them away on these exclusive deals, and what we saw happen with Twitch's average concurrent viewers, the number of channels, and the number of monthly broadcasters over the course of the last 5 years since all this competition entered, it's doubled, right? So even in a significantly more competitive ecosystem, you have seen Twitch, which was the incumbent or is the incumbent, lose most of its talent and only grow in terms of the number of people on the platform, the number of people watching at any given time, the number of people broadcasting on the platform at any given time. It continues to grow because it's another way to enjoy that form of content. We're seeing this with things like movies and shows and the NFL as an example, where more athletes are starting to create content outside of the gaming space to give you a view into their daily lives, their routines, the things that they do outside of playing that particular game. And it allows us to consume content from the things that we matter, or that we care about, rather, even when we don't have the actual time to sit down and do that thing ourselves. So from like a gaming perspective, I can go and watch a playthrough or a walkthrough or somebody do something really fun and unique that I either don't have the time to do or don't have the skill to do or don't have the group to do or some combination of all three, but I can still watch and consume that content. And I think it becomes incredibly interesting to see all the different verticals of content within a particular game. In Minecraft, as an example, there's a bunch of people who play hardcore survival. There's people who build ridiculous things with redstone. We've seen competitive game modes all within the same game. And I've never touched any of that shit. I play Minecraft once every 9 months with a few of my friends for like 4 days. And then I delete it and then I buy it again the next time I'm going to play it because for some reason it always fucking disappears. But that's how I play Minecraft. But I watch a lot more Minecraft content than, the 4 or 5 days that I play over the course of the year because there's so many interesting things that I'll just never have the ability or time to do myself, but I'm allowed or able to consume it through watching content from these streamers. So I think that that's one piece. The other piece is a lot of games are almost designed today, at least some of the more popular games, in a way where you can be doing something else. The meme, I play a fuckload of RuneScape, I play a bunch of TFT. Both of those games are games where I can have that on one side of my monitor and on another watch something or read something or do some work frankly. And I think that that's becoming more and more popular with a lot of these titles. If you're not playing an always on high octane game like an FPS shooter, there's an opportunity and an avenue for you to consume something alongside the game that you're consuming. And most of the time when I'm playing a game and watching something, I'm also watching somebody else play that game while I'm playing that game, and I know that that's not an experience that's unique to me. I think the more opportunities we give people to consume games in different ways than just playing the game, the more likely you are to build a fan of that game for life. And I think we're starting to see smart teams and smart developers find ways to either integrate that content directly within their platform or shine a spotlight on people and creators within their ecosystem who are creating that content so that you're always involved in that particular game's eco.
Something that I find interesting here too that nobody's brought up yet is it kind of you sort of manifest hours out of thin air that like isn't really competitive with gaming or Netflix in a lot of ways. Like I actually right now as we speak have somebody playing League of Legends up on one of my monitor screens because it's just been up while I've been playing while I've been working all day. And this isn't competitive with Netflix and it's not competitive with gaming because I can't be hosting this show or doing my regular work routine while that's happening. But it's pretty easy to have somebody just like climbing ladder and I pay attention like 30 seconds of every 10 minutes. And technically, this is me watching for 6 hours, but like not really, right? Koji, I'm tagging you in.
I mean, I did say that people more and more like more passive entertainment, but I think you hit me with the well said. So I'm not sure if you heard that part.
Well said, Koji.
Uh, but I also think that I mean, I wanted to comment on the like sweatiness bit of things. I think that like some of my favorite streamers are in fact terrible at games, and I watch them out of sheer frustration because I hate myself. But they're also like entertaining personalities, or some of them are not necessarily even the best. Like I wouldn't say that that Ali thinks of herself as like the greatest Hearthstone player to ever live, but she's like one of my favorite Hearthstone players to watch. So I think that that's the case. And I think Katie's probably losing her mind, and Paul wants to go last because someone's like, "Well, what does the audience do in this whole equation?" And I think that maybe they have something to say about that. I don't really know the details, but I'll let Paul talk about it when you let him speak.
Well, we got to pause on Paul for just another second because Big Roni came in from the audience. Oliver Maroney, head of gaming at OpenSea. Always a pleasure and a treat. Thanks for joining us, man. What's your take on this one?
No, I just wanted to add on to everybody else. And sorry, Paul and Katie. I have seen your guys' stuff. It's amazing, and I hope that you touch on it in this space. So I apologize for taking some of the shine away. But I just wanted to speak on it streaming being another form of entertainment, and it's very different from what we've normally consumed. Uh, as everybody's mentioned, you can watch the hardcore gamer, you can watch the variety streamer. I find the things most interesting, and to Knox's point here as well, like the games that are being developed that are for streaming. It feels like Only Up felt like that for Up Only Up. I still get confused with that. I'm sorry, but that felt like one where we were having a moment. I was watching different streamers play together and try and get to the top together. The chained, I the amount of content that I consumed on the game where you're like chained together and you're watching Speed and Kai and some of these massive streamers doing stuff together in real life and also in the game is just it's really really entertaining, fun, and to Koji's point, it's passive. Like you don't need to think. There's not much thought. It's kind of like this is a terrible analogy, but like my wife turns on like a Hallmark movie at night for Christmas, Christmas time of year or whatever, and you just sit there and watch it. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to like pay attention necessarily. You kind of know what's going on. And sometimes you tune in, sometimes you tune out. You can have it on in the background. That's the sort of thing that I think streaming offers, and like from a viewership perspective, you can tap into it as much as you want. You can enter the chat, you can be engaged, but you can also just be like that silent person watching on the sidelines, kind of tuning in as you please. And so I think that it's just the amount of variety that you can stream with and watch as a viewer with, and the selection that you have now, it is bigger than any Netflix category. It is bigger than any content series that you could watch. There are so many streamers, large, small, medium. I mean, did anyone touch on the fact that like there was a streamer out there that was streaming for 3 years straight, nonstop, 24/7, and was barely discovered? I'm going on this rant to just say that there is so much unique organic content that comes from streaming that you don't find anywhere else, and you do create that extra time in your day to watch it, and or time that you already have and you're watching on the side. So just adding on to the conversation here. Thank you, and I don't want to take too much of anyone's time here. Like I said.
Great to have you, Big Dog. I would love to have you stay if you have a little bit more time. We're going to tag in Lems for a quick comment, and then we're going to let Paul cook. I don't want this topic to go too long, but it has been an interesting one. Lems, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is definitely up and to the right. Like people wish this chart was going to go up and to the right the same way their altcoins are, because just viewership just keeps going up. I kind of feel like the old curmudgeon though of people, like if anyone's seen South Park a few years ago where Kyle got so mad that his brother was watching PewDiePie all the time and they were just watching gamers and not playing the games. That's how I feel sometimes, because I'll watch a game for a bit and then just want to actually jump in and play it for myself. But I think there's massive value, especially like PvP games and like high skill threshold. People love watching those and seeing people do insanely good plays. But I also agree with some of what I think it was Wills was saying about like it takes some of the magic away a little bit from some of the single player games and story based games. Like people just watch the stream and watch someone else play it, and then they don't really have interest in playing the game. But overall, I do think it's a net positive as a whole for gaming. I think it was John also mentioned like the people expect you to know the meta because there's so much content available now. Like if you're playing PvP, and especially if there's mics on and people just get mad at you that you're not being sweaty enough. But I think overall it's great marketing as well for games, and I think we'll continue to see it go up. I'm just the kind of old curmudgeon where I want to play the game more than watch it a lot of the time.
All right, Paul, give the people what they've been waiting for. Let's hear it.
um, I have so many emotions. It's hard. It's hard. Okay, it's got to be a little bit of a story time. Just bear with me, all right? 15 years ago, no, 12, yeah, about 15 years ago, I was at Ensemble Studios working on the beginning of Halo Wars 2, okay? I'd worked on all the Age of Empires games and then Halo Wars, and now we're working on Halo Wars 2, and the iPhone comes out. And I start walking around the studio telling everyone that our next audience to make games for is Midwest moms. And everybody looked at me like I was a fucking lunatic. And what am I talking about? And I want to make games for phones. Have you seen games for phones? It's like fucking 99-cent ringtone apps and bowling games and solitaire. And we make Age of Empires. You want to make games for moms? What are you talking about? And I left. And I started a company to make games for moms with my brother and with Katie. And for the first years of that effort, people were sad for me. They were just sad. They were like, "Poor Paul. He's having some kind of midlife crisis. He thinks moms are going to play video games, and that's sad." And then Words with Friends came out. And yeah, you guys know the rest of what happened. The reason that Katie is losing her fucking mind right now, and I get it, is because we're like time travelers. So 5 years ago, no, more than 5 years ago, Jesus, 7 years ago, I started running around the studio at Playful saying, y'all, the next game we're gonna make is just a game made for people to watch people play. That's what we're going to make. We're going to make the ultimate spectator game that's designed for streamers. It's not just, we're going to answer this question of like, there's all these games. This is, again, 7 years ago, right? So Twitch is taking off, YouTube is taking off. People can see this stuff starting to happen. And I look at it and I'm like, but these games that people are playing, that they're watching, none of them were actually designed for this. What would it turn into if a game studio like ours decided to build a game that was actually just where we knew that the behavior, if we're lucky, if we make a great game, the behavior is going to be not only people playing our game, but these amazing set of entertaining entrepreneurs using our game to stream to audiences, to entertain audiences, to monetize audiences, to make money, to make a business out of it. This is the coolest thing ever, because not just are we turning our game into this entrepreneurial platform, but we're also reaching the most casual audience possible. This is why I was obsessed with making iPhone games, candidly, is because I was like, I just want to make games where the barriers to being a gamer are coming down, where it's getting more accessible, more casual. And so you got to picture me 7 years ago running around Playful going, guys, what is more casual than a game you play without even picking up a controller? You literally just tune in and watch someone else play. It's the most casual way ever to enjoy a video game. And I started like talking to more of these folks, like these content creators, viewers. I was one, of course, myself. And it's exactly what the panel said. When you talk to someone and you say, "Are you what's a game you're a big fan of?" and they'll say, "I'm a big fan of League." They're like, "Oh, cool. Well, you really must pay attention to League. You must be a big player." And it's like, well, actually, 90% of my time is spent watching my favorite streamers play. I haven't played that often, but I love League, right? And so that person isn't making a distinction of themselves as a consumer of League just because they're a hardcore competitor or not. They don't care. They're just part of League's audience. And so I was running around saying, the way we're all going to get rich, the way that this game is going to be the biggest game ever, is we're going to figure out how to treat anyone who shows up to enjoy Wildcard as a customer, whether they install the game or not. And we are going to make the ultimate game for spectators, for viewers, for content creators. And we're gonna be able to do that because we're starting from scratch with that design. We're not League of Legends where you have this game that's already been built and it's like all we can do is bolt on features. Like we're gonna build it into the game. And that was 7 years ago. And the reason that this is so hard is that I wanted to let this whole panel go. I wanted to see. And Lems, thank you for being a little bit of a curmudgeon, but really you didn't even. There's like 100% people on this panel, incredibly smart colleagues of mine, who are all like, yep, nope, definitely up and to the right, definitely up and to the right. So I'm glad we're finally getting to the Midwest mom cycle of this particular opportunity and that you all are seeing it. Well, okay, we've been building this now for 7 years. We have the game that's made for streaming with Wildcard, and 2 years ago, we started working on the other part of that formula, which is the platform where viewers can connect into games and monetize as viewers in a way that we could not get done on Twitch or Discord or YouTube. And just for candid history, we tried. We tried working with Amazon. We've tried working with Discord. There are teams within these companies who believe in this vision, but they are big heavyweight companies. And I know on this panel we talked all the time about how like big companies are like the Titanic. Like it's hard to turn them, right? Like you could have a small scrappy team within Twitch. In fact, I do, and they're amazing. I love those guys, and they understand this vision, and they're like, you guys are building to where the puck is going. Like you get it. You're one of the few teams, and we've been talking to them now for 5 years. But when they go to their bosses, and I hope I'm getting them in trouble, when they go to their bosses and they're like, guys, we have to build these features that Wildcard is telling us they need, their bosses are like, is it going to drive Prime subs for Amazon? Because that's your only KPI. So if it's not that, then get the fuck out of my office. Like that's literally, and I only know that because I work with these guys and I know the reality that they work within in Amazon, and I know that's the situation. And same thing at Google and same thing at Discord. What that turns into, though, is a blocker for the vision of what we're building with thousands, that we're now building because we had to, not because I wanted to, not because I wanted to build a platform that was going to go straight up against Twitch, straight up against Discord. At the same time, I'm also trying to build a fucking game, right? So I had to create Counter-Strike and Steam at the same time right now. But for the same reason that Gabe had to do that too, because he had an idea. He wanted Microsoft to build it. He wanted other people to build it. Give that to him. Digital distribution for games. Very simple. None of them would do it. He just was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. That's what happened here. We were building Wildcard. We were waiting for Twitch and Discord to show up and give us what they need, and they didn't. So we're building it now as a decentralized network called Thousands. And there's just one key thing to understand about what this does. It's the one thing that Twitch and Discord and YouTube will not give us. We need the ability to make content creators more successful. If you talk to people, and I know Knock knows this, everybody knows this, and you ask content creators, so tell me about where you produce content and how it goes or whatever. You'll hear this story every time. I need to produce content on Twitch because that's the top of my funnel. Like that's where I go live. That's where I meet my audience in real time and they get a view into, and then they clip that into VODs and it goes on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. So they're like, I love that platform because of my audience and because I get to connect with them live. But I fucking hate that platform, in this case, like Twitch or Discord, because I can't make any money there. It's awful. I've tried everything. I've tried changing the ad frequency. I've tried tips. I've tried sub strategies. I've tried all this stuff.
All right, Paul.
And I can't make. Okay, sorry. Anyway, the whole thesis of Thousands is solving that problem. It's monetizing viewers effectively to get content creators paid effectively. And the way we do that is by connecting the streaming platform to the game. Very simply, every user who buys the skin in Wildcard that watched Wildcard from some streamer, that streamer gets a cut of that skin purchase. Just that simple feature. That's all we wanted from Twitch and Discord, and they wouldn't give it to us. So anyway, that's where we're at. I can't wait to you guys to see where we go. I can't wait to have this this conversation with you guys in a couple of years and be like, remember when we had that Midwest moment, but with for streaming, Midwest moms? Yeah, it's not going to be Midwest moms, I don't think, but it's going to be all of us. We are going to watch more games than we're playing. That's the future. We're building it. Thank you for having me. That's where my TED Talk.
Got to give the man a time slot for the TED Talk because he predicted the future. That one's on the house. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate the insights. Excited to clip that one. There were some gems in there. We're moving on to the next topic. What's the word? Over 90% of crypto games being considered "quote unquote" dead. A report from Chain Plays. Chain Play says that they said there's a 93% failure rate among Web3 gaming projects. A project that's classified as dead is if its token price has declined over 90% and if fewer than 100 users are engaging with it daily. The study highlights that the average lifespan of a Web3 gaming project is only 4 months. This is far shorter than the lifespan of other crypto ventures such as meme coins, which typically last about a year, according to them, and traditional crypto projects, which, again, according to them, average 3 years. So, what's the word for 93% failure rate in Web3 gaming projects at this current stage that we're at? I'm not sure what order the hands went to. Let's go to Jerry first.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's standard for the games industry. I use this analogy with Sam. I think I said this in a private conversation we were having one time. But if we were all in the Supercell office, right? We're all Supercell employees right now. They have that thousand. We're working on 1,000 games at any given time or whatever. The reality is that of that 1,000, like 994 of them, don't see the light of day. They get killed at some point at, ideation all the way through soft launch, that it'll get killed. And what Web3 kind of did differently was like it allowed those games to, go and find people that might be interested in it. And so Web3 is just having these games fail publicly. But every game studio and publisher in the world is seeing the same rate of failure with the games that they're building. So I think it's just an expected number. I think it's a little bit taboo because like people have bought assets or people have minted assets or bought tokens. And so it's just people have a level of anger about it that you would never have if you were just like a fan of Supercell games, I think, comparing it to like it's a really unfair comparison to say for the chain play guys to say like, hey, compared to meme coins, like meme coins have like a 1 year life cycle or whatever. Like that's pretty unfair because like most of them have about a 35-minute life cycle and then they're never heard from again. So it's a super unfair comparison. I really take exception to that. I don't know why that bothers me so much that they use that as a comp. But yeah, otherwise I think it's just expected. You're seeing these failures happen in front of you, whereas ordinarily these failures are all happening. It's just behind closed doors, and it's just some shitty programmer who's getting their dreams crushed by their supercell bosses.
Let's go to the littlest legend next. Lambs, what's the word for this one?
Reality check, and in line with what Jerry just said there, like 90% of startups and businesses fail. I think the thing that I have to remind myself of in this space is that your bubble bias is what I call it, where the people around you get biased just by that group and your circle that you're in. And we're lucky enough that we're surrounded by a bunch of really good builders building some really great products, and not all of them are going to last either, but I think you take it for granted sometimes how many other projects that are out there that just sort of fade away and die. And in Web3, things are a little bit more public as well than the traditional gaming industry, because you have like retail coming in, buying NFTs early, buying tokens early, all that sort of thing. So it becomes a little bit more exposed. But yeah, I'm 100% with what Jerry said on the meme coins thing too, because like it's like a year for the ones that like actually last and stick around. But I mean, you could cherry pick that with games too and be like, oh, like a bunch of them last over a year if you pick the ones that are actually like stand the test of time and last more than a few, like 35 minutes, as he put it. So yeah, overall, I think it's pretty predictable. And just reminder to everyone that we all know that 90% of startups fail, but I think we take it for granted sometimes, like, oh, my bags won't fail, or like my friends' stuff won't fail. And it's that reality check that, hey, a lot of these things are going to fail, and it is just a sad reality, and you got to be prepared that some of your bags are probably going to go to zero, but hopefully you got some big winners in there that compensate for it.
Love to see people in the audience playing along. Dub says the word is "we are so back, baby." So if you're a little bit worried that you don't know how to play the game mode, you can't do worse than Dub having like 7 different words. Don't worry. But thanks, Dub. Appreciate you playing along. Let's go to Justin Gary, then we'll tag in Koji.
Yeah, man, I got a really strong feelings on this because look, making games is hard. Making good games takes a lot of iteration and takes a lot of time. Like I've been making games for 25 years. Richard Garfield, creator of Magic the Gathering, who I worked with on SoulForge Fusion, been doing it for 40 years, right? And we still get it wrong. And so what happened in the Web3 space is people did everything backwards, right? I mean, let's just I'm coming from the tabletop, coming from the Web2 side, where Web3, they sold the token, they sold the sizzle, they sold the promise, but they didn't actually iterate on the game and build a great game first. And that's why I think you do see a slightly higher failure rate here. And it's obviously a lot more public because you're selling into the community a thing that you haven't actually gotten to iterate and test and build. And so when we did SoulForge Fusion, like we launched a tabletop version of the game back in October 2022. We tested it with real players, real time. They loved it. Then we built the Web 2 version. We got players playing that. And only then did we go to a Web 3 token and being able to build all of those elements into it. Now, I know that's like heresy around here, right? Typically, everything we did it exactly backwards. But I think people are not many people who built Web3 games didn't appreciate the importance of the game, didn't appreciate the importance of being able to iterate. And when you're going to do that, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that like shake the wrong way. And when that's done in public, and most importantly, you built your community around believing in you and making promises, that's where the backlash is. And so I think that the stats, regardless of the fact that it's hard to build in any platform, I think right now, if you don't take that process seriously and you're not very like direct about it, both internally with your own teams and how much you can build and iterate before going public, and be very open with what that looks like when you are in public, right? We just launched our 2025 roadmap recently, and I try to be very, very cautious and very clear. Like, here's what we think we know we can do. Here's the things we're building towards that the community can weigh in on. And here's other things where we know we have to iterate internally to give us the best chance of success. Nothing guarantees success, but I think really taking that iterative game design process seriously upfront makes all the difference.
Great stuff, Justin. Let's send it over to Koji. Koji, what's the word for this one?
My word was going to be anger, but now it's relief because, I mean, Parallel has lasted a good while, and we've done a bunch of that iteration in public, and it thankfully hasn't completely destroyed us, which is like astounding because it's something that I complain about all the time. But um, I the, look, man, I think that like the all you have to know is right there in the stats that you read out, man. The fact that we're even considering the success of a game based on the price of the token is like why we're so fucked to begin with, right? It's like, oh man, you know, this if the token was trading through the roof, people would be like, this game's a smash hit, mad success, right? You can do that with a fucking, you can do that with a meme coin, right? Like, why even bother with the game? In fact, that would make my life so much easier because then I could just sit here and like, I don't know, be on stream threatening to fucking kill. I don't know. I don't have a pet that I want to kill, but if I did, I'd point to that one, right? But the fact that like that's even part of the metrics is like why we're in this to begin with, right? Like the whole thing is so hyper financialized that it's just like to what was just said, like the game is almost an afterthought. And that's why most of these games are failing, right? Because people just want to get in while their narratives are hot, get their money and get the fuck out. And then they're like, "Oh, making games is hard." Right? Like and I'm not saying that people haven't failed for legitimate reasons, but it's like it has a built-in sort of like I don't know, let's just say like in case of emergency rug where you're just like, "Oh, turns out our game is shit," you know? Like we raised all this money and the game actually sucks. Sorry guys, thanks for giving us the money or whatever. Um, and so I think that's why you see some of that, right? But if we like, and obviously this is like an idealized rant that I would go on forever. It's just like if we like considered the games first and we're able to evaluate them, then maybe we wouldn't be in this position. Now, obviously, I say that from a point of privilege because our game didn't exist when people gave us money, so there was no evaluating it first to begin with. So like, I get to reap the rewards of all the bullshit that I hate. But like, at the same time, too bad. You know, that's what I get for being here early.
Real quick, double click, Koji. Is there a world in which you guys launched Parallel, but it wasn't a Web3 game, or was the catalyst of seeing that Web3 gaming was going to be a thing the reason that you guys did it?
No. So we're working on the game, but like I don't think it would have happened if it wasn't for Web3. Like I don't know that anyone would have given us money to actually like put it out there into the world, right? The difference, like for me at least, from my perspective, isn't that like I didn't want to make this game. I always wanted to make this game, but it was more that like I don't think I would have ever gotten the opportunity to actually do it if someone wasn't, if there wasn't a Web3 component to it. So like I understand the hypocrisy in what I'm saying, and like, yeah, I get it, but it's also just like that's one of the things where like we were, I existed in a space that had no games that were actually playable, period, hands down. Actually, maybe the only one at that point, and they were like so far ahead of the game, and so like you kind of like that's what you get for like playing in uncharted waters.
Yeah, fair enough. Glass houses and throwing stones. We were early on YouTube, and that was a big part of the reason for our success. Let's tag in Tatted Lawyer, aka Michael. Michael, what's the word for this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna say annoyance. And the reason that I use the word annoyance is because people have to give some grace to new industries as they're starting. Obviously, smart contracts really became a thing, at least for game assets, in 2017 with CryptoKitties, and it was one of the most unusable things ever. So it's only been like 2 or 3 years since you could trade assets back and forth that the trade itself didn't cost you hundreds to thousands of dollars. So as the technology gets better and as the games themselves develop and get better, we're going to see a much larger adoption of these style of games because there is a clear player base for something like this. And I don't actually mean the 50,000 on-chain players that we all have in our echo chambers. I mean like actual gamers who play like CS:GO, for example, and use Skinwallet or use the World of Warcraft marketplace. Like there's so many different gamers who already like use this style of play. And we actually had this conversation at Art Basel where you wouldn't call the first person shooter market a failure, despite the fact that over the last 10 years, there's been several hundreds of first person shooter games to launch where only about 10 of them have been successful. You're not going to say the entire first person shooter narrative is a failure because it's not, you're not able to bring in new games that are successful. So I say the same thing about the on-chain industry. I think it's just still in its earliest days where games are developing. The technology is really trying to find itself. People also have to realize that you're not really going to do user acquisition on Twitter. You got to go back to where user acquisition is done in traditional gaming because that's where you're going to reach the actual influx of players that we're trying to get here. So I think it's really really important to understand the point in time we are with this industry and to say that like 93% of games fail, well duh, 40, I think it's like 43% of games, mobile games fail in development, so they're not even launched, they just get absolutely waxed while they're in development. So this is something that goes on throughout the entire gaming industry. It's not just specific to Web3 gaming or on-chain gaming. It's a huge, huge problem. So I think it's more give the industry some grace. let it grow, let the technology get there, because I personally see every single game being some iteration of on chain in the future. Um, just because it just makes more sense in terms of what the gamer is able to do.
Great take from Michael. Let's go over to Wild Paul, then to Knock.
That was such a great take, Michael. I have, there's this saying in the game industry that every shipped game is a miracle, and that's been my own personal experience. Is that's definitely true, and that's how it feels just trying to even get to a launched game. But when you then multiply that by the challenges of working in any new emerging part of the game industry, so this was true in free to play, this was true on mobile, this was initially true on console, you effectively multiply that challenge by an order of magnitude because your audience is new and different, and they have something that's kind of fundamentally different about how they want to interact with your game, right? So if you look at mobile, we had to completely recalibrate. So in our case, like this was the Age of Empires team suddenly becoming an iPhone game team, and our initial instincts were like, let's just make an RTS on the phone because the touchscreen will be great and you'll be able to control the units and move them around or whatever. And I think we had to kind of have this reckoning that happened thankfully a couple of months into starting that company where we're like, wait a minute. um, if I'm holding this little device in my hand and I'm like on the toilet or whatever, where I have a moment between my next meeting, or I'm on the escalator getting onto my flight or whatever, like I've got like maybe 2 minutes to play the game, and I'm not going to play an RTS, like not really, like that's not going to be probably the main type of game I played. So that led us down this path of like totally rethinking how we think about the design and fun and all that kind of stuff. And it's very challenging because you have to like take these things, you have to try to identify the things that are evergreen in game design, and then also realize the things that you have to reinvent because of the fact that you're in a totally new space on a new platform, targeting a new venue and a totally new type of audience. And that's definitely been my experience in building crypto games over the last couple of years, and I see it with all the folks who are struggling mightily to find that sort of killer app for crypto gaming. Is the audience that we have in this space and what they want out of things like asset ownership, token ownership, just speculation, like all these kind of things. That's like something we have never really dealt with as game designers. There are a few companies, like I always point to Eve Online because they've been doing a version of this for like 25 years, and they are extremely experienced with dealing with like speculators in their gaming community and that kind of stuff. But the majority of us don't have that experience, and we're having to learn and adjust our design skills to match this completely new audience and what they want and what they call fun, which in some cases is defined by number go up, and that's okay. Like we don't reject those people and like we're like, go away, this isn't for you. Like, no, they're here because they're gamers and because they're crypto enthusiasts, and our job is to make something that builds a bridge between those two groups.
Shout out to StarCraft 64, the experiment that never should have been. If you tried to play an RTS on that fucking console, what a journey that took itself to be. Over to Knock, then we're going to move on from this one.
Yeah, the word is business. This isn't unique to gaming. It's not unique to Web3 gaming. This is just, if you want to be top 1% of anything, most of everything will fucking fail. Like that's just how things operate. Something like less than 3% of like actors ever make a livable wage from their career as an actor. Less than a half a percentage of all people who play high school football ever make the NFL. And then of those who do, they're out of the league in 3 years. Most of everything fails. Pretty much, frankly, on a long enough time scale, everything fucking fails, right? It's ridiculous to me that like we're getting frustrated, or we're pointing at teams who have come into the space, attempted to do something, not found the success that they had hoped for, and then you point at them and go, "Well, this industry sucks because look at all the failures." Like it's not even that ridiculous, man. Look at a company like Supercell. I know I bring them up all the time, but I think that there's such a good example of this. They are one of the most successful mobile game development studios ever. Point blank. They have like 5 different titles that are billion-dollar games. They've killed 70% of their total titles. Most of those titles died before and they've ever even reached global release. So it's not absurd to see 93% of Web3 games die. My estimate would be it's probably going to be a lot more of those over the course of the next few years. But I think the metrics that we're focusing on here are maybe a little disingenuous, right? Token price being down 90%, like that's like a bad week in crypto. Like that's most fucking coins at some point in their life. Solana was $8 less than 2 years ago, and we just recently hit all-time high, right? This is the crypto space. Looking at price action as a metric for whether or not that game is successful is a little ridiculous in my eye. But again, like if you're trying to build something or you're trying to be somebody or you're trying to do something that plenty of people care about for an extended period of time, well, yeah, if you're fighting in that field, there's 10,000 other people or more who are trying to do the same thing. Most of you are going to fail. And that's just the reality of building a business. This isn't unique to Web3 gaming. It's not unique to the gaming industry. This happens in pick a field. Most people in that field fail. That's just life. That's just how business operates.
Paul, put the hand back up. Quick take from you before we move on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Knock is completely right. But if you're someone who's like hearing that and like, well, then I might as well throw a dart at a dartboard. Like, how do I possibly pick winning teams or whatever? Like, there is one secret that I wanted to share, which is just find the teams that are doing something that is tied to something they've done before, or at the very least is a team that has shipped together before, something fun, something good. Because you'd be surprised that if you actually go across all of the teams that are building stuff, that's not very common. That's infrequent. You'll probably, maybe 10% of the teams out there, you'll find a group of people that have been working together for a while and building things together for a while. And I love the Richard Garfield example, and I have that card game now that I brought home from Art Basel. I can't wait to play it. He's been building card games forever. He knows what he's doing. That team is seasoned. They've shipped games like this together before. So although you might look at those stats and be like, oh my gosh, 1% success rate is abysmal, you can definitely increase that success rate by indexing on those features of a team, in my opinion. Not financial advice.
Not financial advice, but great alpha. Always good to look at people that have done it before. And of course, over at Wildcard, Paul's kept a lot of that team together from all the different stuff they've done over the years. And while the rest are stuck smashing their keyboards and shouting at servers, Avalanche is busy rewriting the blockchain playbook with Avalanche 9000. Launching your own layer one is so seamless, it's practically an art form. This isn't just wishful thinking, by the way. It's already happening with heavy hitters like Solo Leveling, T1 Esports, and more, creating custom built gaming ecosystems powered by their very own Avalanche L1. Thank you to Avalanche for being the official blockchain of Gamified. And let's grab a moment to gush about the game-changing giant Game 7, the Grandmasters of Glorious Gaming Galaxies, with 175,000 monthly active gamers gaining ground in Game 7's portal with 400,000 citizen avatars on chain, plus over $1 million worth of rewards given out. Game 7 is pretty damn great. Hyperplay is your gateway to making game discovery gracefully glitch-free, and while World Builder grows gritty economies into gold mines, their gargantuan MetaMask partnership, they've opened the gates to 30 million global gamers, inviting everyone not just to grind away, instead gear up, get going with our official infrastructure, Game 7. When gamers, real quick, put down that Mountain Dew and listen to this, with a GDP totaling $21 million, this game is already a small country. It's Star Atlas, and their economic engine is already up and running. But they're not just about numbers, they're about impact, proven whenever they brought 1,700 eager players attending their Impact Summit in Singapore to see them setting the standard for player-owned universes. Star Atlas is all about player empowerment, as demonstrated by the recent Golden Carnival, a mind-blowing $4 million giveaway, proving they reward those brave enough to explore the stars. Thank you to Star Atlas, the official game of Gamified. We're jumping in next with this or that. If you guys are accruing assets today, again, not financial advice from myself or anybody else on this panel, but are you guys betting on agents over everything else in gaming? We're going to give you two options. Both of them, we're looking at the lens of Web3 gaming. I know there's plenty of agents that do not touch Web3 gaming, but with this being a Web3 gaming show, I do want to focus on that. You have to choose between only betting on gaming NFTs and tokens that are connected with gaming AI agents in some way, or you bet the field, which in this case would be all of the gaming NFTs and assets that are completely unaffiliated with AI agents. To use two examples on this panel, let's say Parallel Colony Avatars versus the Wild Pass would be the field, because to my knowledge, there's no AI affiliation with the Wild Pass. Which of these two options would you bet on? Not those two assets in particular, but those two asset classes. And for reference, this is not related to virtuals in particular. This is just all AI agent gaming stuff. going on. I think you guys understand from that. Let's go to I want to pick somebody not that I just referenced. Let's go to Knock.
Threw me for a loop there. I heard knock twice, but it was not. Fuck. I think personally, look, if you're looking to invest and deploy capital, for me, the way that I do it, fair disclaimer, I'm an absolute fucking degenerate, but I bet on upside, and the upside lies with AI agents. It's a new field. It's something that we don't quite understand. It's got pretty massive implications for a bunch of different fields, and sure enough, at some point it'll probably change the way that as consumers we interact with games. I think to an even greater scale than just Web3 titles alone. You combine those two things together where you've got AI agents operating on the blockchain. And I think the upside has the potential to be fucking infinite and significantly larger than pretty much any other pure gaming play. I think if you're looking for the investment move, if you've got an appetite for risk, my take is you take a bet on AI agents. I think that there are plenty of teams in the space who are building really innovative products with the blockchain, teams who know how to build games. And I think that those are always good teams that you shouldn't bet on and you should allocate capital towards. But I think if you're talking purely about the upside, the financial upside over the course of the next, let's call it 3 to 5 years, for me, you've got to take a bet on some of these AI agent teams.
All right. Knock wants the AI agents. John Allen, do you?
Did you say to me? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Paul
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Koji both put their hands down, so the order's getting a little messed up. Let's go over to you.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think like obviously it's the new shiny thing, right? AI agents, everybody's like super hyped about it, right? I think like when we're talking about upside, it's like it's kind of an unknown quantity, so it's like there's potential there, great, like it's worth paying attention to. I mean, but like in general, like kind of my heuristic for the entire space since I've been doing did venture before this for like 6 years, right? And it's like for me, it's like the dichotomy is always missionary versus mercenary. And I think like with any new trend, there's so much more prevalence of these mercenaries. And I think like if an AI is kind of like running these things, it's like, is it a missionary? Is it a mercenary? Like, what did you train it on, right? And so it's like for me, it's like really hard to kind of compartmentalize like, what kind of bucket does that fit into. So like while I'm kind of like really paying attention to it, I really don't think that this is like, hey, like everything is different. We're gonna have companies entirely run by AI like tomorrow, right? I think that's like directionally where it's headed. But for me, it's like I'd rather bet on real people, real teams who are using AI, because I think that's kind of like the edge case here, where like a lot of the gaming companies are using it for design, they're using it for marketing, they're using it for graphics, for animation, right? So it's like they're subsidizing their workflow, and just because they don't have this like sexy wrapper on Twitter that's just like spitting out 1,000 replies every second, right, doesn't mean that they're not utilizing AI. So I think if you're saying like, hey, like this is a trend, this is something I want exposure to, all right, I'll just invest in the outward facing AI projects. It doesn't mean that you're missing the AI trend. It's like, invest in the companies that are building real things that were, already 10x developer teams, 10x kind of like game developing teams. And then now they're amplified with AI. Now they're 100x teams. And that's extremely compelling. So I would just say like, obviously AI, really interesting, kind of an unknown quantity. Like obviously a lot of things are changing. So staying on the ball there is exceedingly important if you're interested in kind of like potential upside. But I would say don't get distracted by the shiny wrapper, right? Kind of dig into it and be like, hey, missionary versus mercenary. That's always worked well for me. And if you look at it through that lens, it's like maybe that has some clarity.
There's a fellow John in the audience that seems to agree with you. He says the AI agents are a bit of a fad in the short term. Would rather just bet on the best Web3 games for this cycle that are actually real fun games. I think the hands might just be getting a little messed up on Twitter because Koji put it back up and then back down. Koji, are you ready to jump in?
Yeah. My head was up the whole time, but then when you said you couldn't see it, I put it down and then up again just to, I don't know, I thought it was glitching or whatever. But um, yeah, I mean, honestly, this is this is like the worst take by me, but I think it goes back to what Paul said earlier. Is just like I think what you have to do isn't like bet on narratives necessarily. Obviously, if narratives are hot and you want to make a quick buck, you can do that. But what you should be doing, like Paul said earlier, is bet on teams that you believe in, right? Like whatever it is that they're building, like just be a part of it. Like I mean, I don't think Paul will mind me saying this. I told him candidly in a chat that we had that like anything that he's doing, I want to support in any way that I can, right? And it's not about, oh, he's building like an AI agent to play a fucking wild card or whatever. It's like no. Like I see him as somebody who's building a thing that has the right team, the right head on his shoulders, and like the people at the top are who are leading it are like people that I respect that are really smart, et cetera, et cetera. And so like that's the team that I want to be involved with, no matter whether it fits into the narrative or not, And so like and maybe that's like terrible for me to say from a parallel perspective because we have like AI agents and whatever. But what I would say is just like, uh, if you think I'm full of shit, then maybe park your money elsewhere. But if you like some of the nonsense that I spew on the show, um, you know, take a bet on parallel. And I'm not saying invest in us in any way. Please don't. That just will add more pressure to my life and scare me even further. But like watch what we're doing, play the games, and judge for yourself or whatever. But yeah, I think you bet on the teams, not so much like the tech that they claim that they're going to be trying to build.
You guys heard it here first. Koji hates his own product. Probably shouldn't buy parallel assets. But unfortunately, I'm a huge Prime and Avatar holder. So down bad, down bad if you're Sam Stephanie on the show. Let's send it over to Justin Gary next.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of like as has already been highlighted, the public facing AI agent is as a determinant of whether you're going to invest or not is not the right frame, in my opinion. I think that AI is obviously infiltrating everything that we do. I had a great conversation. I have my own podcast called Think Like a Game Designer, where I talk with a lot of the top people around the industry. Did an episode with Ethan Mollick, who's one of the foremost experts on AI right now, wrote the Co-Intelligence New York Times bestselling book on it. And he framed it really well for me, which is just like, look, this is a process that's evolving. The time that it will take to find where it fits into institutions and organizations is going to play out over years. And I think the right like investment thesis is not about where do you put your dollars right now, but it's where do you put your time and attention. And I think everybody should be, whether you're building or you're looking to just kind of get familiar with it, is play with the AI tools that are available now, interact with the AI agents when the games are with the games that have them, interact with it in the process of you building things. It's something I encourage everybody on my team to do. Like we're a human team that built all of our stuff with human hands and human thoughts, but we are continually adding more AI elements into our development process. We're continually testing and pushing the boundaries because over the long term, I doubt there'll be anybody on this panel that disagrees that that's it's going to become more and more a part of everything we do. And it's about how do you maximize the best ideas and the best people with the best tools to make the best product for the best community. That's the story, and AI is going to be part of that pipeline for sure. But for now, I'd say, look, don't just bet on it because it says shiny AI, but continue to invest the most important resource that we all have, which is your attention as you try to like learn and leverage your own impact.
A bunch of frighteningly level-headed takes. Let's send it over to Wild Paul to see if he's going to shake things up a little bit.
No, probably not. I actually just want to tie some of these points together, and also because you aggroed me at the beginning of the conversation, Sam, by mentioning the Wild Pass. What everybody's saying is exactly right. And honestly, if you are someone who is an investor that likes to take some of your capital and chase a narrative, then yeah, by all means, go chase AI, agents on Twitter. Like that's fine, and maybe that meta lasts a month if you're lucky, maybe 2 months. I don't know, but the truth is, you definitely bet the field and you bet on the great teams, because we are all being impacted by growth of AI tools and AI technologies in an insane way. And it's exactly like someone said before, like AI takes a team that is using it well, which pretty much any smart team is going to be, and amplifies that team's impact by 10x. It's crazy. I used this example before, so I'll just give you guys a quick example because you might say, well, how is a wild pass an AI related asset? Okay, well, the wild pass was just used on the Thousands Network this past weekend to give away $50,000. The Thousands Network does what it's able to do because of an advantage that AI provides in terms of content moderation that would have previously required us to hire thousands and thousands of content moderators that we can now leverage AI to help us solve. And so before, that kind of problem would have been impossible. Like running a social streaming network at scale, like content moderation becomes one of the hardest problems. And it's just something that suddenly AI creates this advantage that wipes away that moat that other companies have, that have built these kind of networks before. And that's just one example. There are so many ways that AI impacts the development of games and tech and stuff that we're building all on this panel, that you don't really have to bet on an AI agent specific strategy. And I completely agree with Koji. Like, You can bet on a great team and take faith in the fact that AI is going to take that great team and multiply their productivity and their capacity by 100-fold over the next several years.
Damn, great take. Let's go over to Jerry. Let's see if you got some spice for us.
I don't think so because I agree with everybody. But I think in a different way. I think you kind of have to bet on AI agents. They solve a lot of problems. A lot of these guys touched on some of those things already. But I think one thing that didn't get touched on is when you look at AI agents compared to games specifically, is AI agents can solve problems across multiple games or multiple fields or multiple avenues, right? You look at a project like Limbo or what AI Arena is doing, and that can solve issues, for player liquidity across like multiple games, right? And when you make the comparison of like, do I take the bet on a single game NFT and token, or do I take the bet on a single protocol or AI agent that can fix things across multiple things, whereas the game is just the one game and it might work and it might not. The part of me that likes upside, like Nock was talking about, is I want something that can solve issues in a bunch of different ways and has a customer base that will be, multiple games. All these games are going to need to solve the player liquidity problem at some point, and thus enter Arc from AI Arena, and that helps that in a major way. So I think when you look at the framing of the question, you kind of have to bet AI agents for the reasons that all these guys said. It can not just 10x a talented team, it 100x's or beyond that. But a good team building a solid agent that identifies a problem and builds towards solving that problem. Everybody will then go need that solution when they're making games. So I would take the bet on the agents for that reason.
All right, let's go to Lems, then we'll tag in Knock before we move on.
Yeah, I will say if we're talking short term, especially, definitely bet on these agents. But in something that's so new as this, you don't necessarily want to get caught holding the bag too, because some of these are going to just like fizzle out and not gain a lot of traction. So of course NFA and all that good stuff. But if you're looking at like speculative upside, there is like no real ceiling because it is so new. So that's the advantage of being in a new thing is it's super volatile and you can have massive upside, but there's also a downside risk, right? So the upside is great because there's no real ceiling and there's no real comps to look at. But one piece of bad news comes out about the dev behind this AI agent and the token gets nuked to zero. So it's like you have to kind of keep that in mind as well if you are deploying capital in these things. But overall, like I would back the agents. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch play out over the next few years. But there's a good chance the projects that are out today, like as we talked about in the earlier part of the show, like 90% of games being dead or whatever, we're probably going to see something similar with these agents where a bunch of them are worth zero in 6 months from now. So definitely be careful there. But I think there's going to be some that stick around, like AIXPT. I know he's not gaming, but like, man, that like analysis and shit posting on Twitter, like it's been hilarious just to follow that agent. So I think we're going to see more agents, and I love what AI Arena are doing too with Arc and actually getting the agents in the game, playing the game, as opposed to just being a chatbot on Twitter, which is what most of these are at this point. And I think AI can also help gaming catch a bid possibly because this cycle gaming tokens haven't really got a whole lot of love. But if you're intersecting AI and gaming together, I think it's definitely going to get a lot more attention. So definitely not something you want to fade.
All right, Knock, tell them all why they're wrong, brother.
Yeah, I'll give you some spice. I actually think this, for the most part, were pretty cowardly takes. You can't say, no, bail on AI, just bet on teams who might use AI. Like, that's the softest thing. You're betting on AI or you're betting the field that isn't involved with it. Like, that's ridiculous to me. I think this idea that, like, the only form of AI agents in gaming are shit post bots on Twitter is fucking absurd. We've already seen that that's not true with people like Arc and the NRN team building bots to address player liquidity in game. Those are AI agents. We've seen it with things like Parallel Colony that leverage the use of standards like 6551, which allows NFTs to own other NFTs and create their own wallet, powered by something like an AI based agent. Sorry, my dogs are losing their fucking minds. AI agents in game, like we're going to see teams bring things in like AI agents to help with player liquidity issues, help making the world feel more full. Imagine a world where you're playing something like The Witcher, and instead of a bunch of NPCs who are just pretending to perform tasks, they're actually performing tasks. They're making decisions. They're contributing to the economy of that ecosystem. To me, the idea that we won't see more of that in the future is ridiculous. And AI agents in games can also take a number of different forms. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of conversation about is the idea of vertical AI agents that are meant to perform repetitive tasks. So instead of a human doing something, you've got an agent that can help to, one, make that process a little more streamlined and make it infinitely faster and cheaper. So yes, AI agents take more than just the shape of a Twitter bot. I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, you've already lost the plot. Like you're so out of the conversation here that you're going to miss out on a lot of the upside from the different forms that an AI agent in gaming can take. I think what we're seeing with Twitter bots is literally ground zero, right? This is the first step. We're figuring out how to interact with AI agents and gaming. Once we start to see implementations, once we start to see things like Colony come out, and we can see that there are other ways to utilize AI agents both in game and in the process of making that game, it'll be very clear that for most people, gaming and AI, or at least AI agents, will be the same thing. It'll be a synonymous, pairing. I think that this is something that we're going to see more of. I think the idea that it's just a Twitter bot and it's a fad and it's going to disappear in a couple of weeks is fucking ridiculous. You're going to see AI agents permeate pretty much every industry. Gaming is going to be no different, and you're going to see AI agents in game, and I think it's going to make worlds feel a lot more full and lively.
But which one are you buying if you had to buy it right now today, Knock?
AI agents.
All right, let's go. John Allen, the hand is up. Over you.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of called it out because it's like I love the spicy take, right? And so it's like I think for me it was like, all right, like spicy take back because it's like today, what are you betting on, right? Because I think even in like what you just talked about, you're like there are a lot of conversations happening. Like imagine a world, what if the future, right? And so it's like, hey, if I give you like $5,000 right now, where are you deploying into thoughts, ideas, hopes, and dreams, right? And I think that's like a little bit of problematic to say that it's like you've lost the plot if you're not like want to put money on hopes and dreams and things that aren't even launched yet, right? So it's like pay attention to it, really. But it's like, yeah, I don't think most of the folks here have like lost the plot. Just a bit of a counterpoint, right? But it's like I think like the one thing that I really want to harp on is like really the people I see right now who are the loudest about using AI and what they're gonna do with AI are honestly like some of the least kind of like intellectual, thoughtful people about AI. Some of the people who are the quietest about it right now and are really just saying like, hey, here's our game, here's our community, here's our ecosystem, and behind the scenes they're absolutely cooking with AI and doing stuff that's absolutely incredible and just like reconstructing their entire org around AI. Those are the people that are really like compelling and interesting to me. And you see this in like every crypto cycle, like the new hot thing. Like back in the day, it was like we're using like ZK or we're using like FHE or multi-party computation. It's like you talk to these people and it's like that's their flagship thing they're doing. You actually talk to the team, they don't have a single cryptographer on the team. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're completely like lost the plot and they're clueless, right? And so I think that's just like the thing that I'm like I always keep in the back of my head is like if you're the loudest about the new hype thing, that always like brings a bit of a red flag. So I mean, yeah, just wanted to like offer a little bit of counterpoint about like, all right, question is phrased today, you're betting money. For me, it's like I don't really want to bet on hopes and dreams and thoughts and promise. It's like pay attention to it, check it out, but where's my capital going today? Probably not on these AI agents or people who are being really loud about it.
That one is 10,000% true. I can't name any names, but I definitely know a couple of people that have launched AI products, and I'm like, oh man, so cool! I would love to learn from you. And then the DMs, they're like, bro, I'm going day by day. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going. We're gonna figure this out. And I'm like, come on, man. I really, I believed in that you would at least do better than that. All right, well, let's go over to Justin Gary, and then Knock put the hand back up. We'll get his response after that.
Yeah, this is like a slight tangent, but I think it's really relevant. And that like what one of the things that I'm concerned of as a developer, and I'd be curious to get other people's takes on, is AI agents can also like crush your game's economy. And it's been a problem for a while, but it's only going to get worse, right? Where when we're trying to use, especially in the Web3 world, we're trying to use real money, token incentives, a variety of things to get people to do certain behaviors, play the game, engage, grow. As AI bots are better and better at doing those things, like you start to build a real risk of just like you're not going to be able to actually engage players themselves. And so I think there's going to be this very significant push and pull that we have to face of being able to find ways to leverage the AIs to help us build the games, to help make the game feel more full and more rich, but not make sure we don't actually lose ground to them being taking over and being the things that just do all of the farming in our games and take over everything. Like it's something I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I'll be honest, I don't have like a definitive answer. So I'm curious other people's takes on this one because I think it's something the entire gaming industry is going to have to wrestle with in the coming years.
Let's go to Knock, and then I see Wild Paul with the hand up.
Yeah, I actually don't have a whole lot of pushback on what John said. I fucking loved his take. And I think this is part of the reason why I mentioned the teams that I did, right? When you have teams building like NRN and the ARC ecosystem, like Parallel, who for the most part won't say much about what they're doing unless you ask, and then they open up and then they've got a whole bunch of insight to give you and share it with you. But they're not touting around the fact that like, hey, we're going to change everything. You know, Wei is somebody who in my opinion, is one of the most level-headed people in the space. And when you have a conversation with him, he goes, "I think it could do this. We're really excited about X, Y, and Z, and it could all go belly up tomorrow, right?" And I think it's a really important position to have, where you're optimistic about something, you're acting as a thought leader like Wei, and to some degree, a lot of the guys in the Parallel team do. But they're building products that we should be excited about. In the case of Parallel Colony, and I'll kind of hype this up because I know Koji won't. What's interesting to me is that the game that is being created there is literally something that couldn't in the same capacity be built in traditional web 2 spaces. We're seeing AI agents interact with the blockchain on a level that is really exciting, isn't really much of a hypothetical anymore at this stage, and we're starting to see more and more teams adopt something similar. So I do agree, it is incredibly early. I think that for the most part, you've got maybe a handful of teams that you could allocate capital towards to try and capture some of this upside. But I also think that those handful of teams are very well positioned to actually one deliver on the product that they say that they're going to deliver. Whether or not it sees the success that we hope for is a completely different story, but they will be able to deliver that product. They're not that far out from delivering some version of it that we can actually get our hands on and see. And more importantly, these are people who aren't chasing the fad. These are people who, for the last 2 or 3 years, have been very public in saying, this is our vision. This is how we expect things to play out over the course of the next few years. We're building with AI for AI with the intention of doing so from day one. That's important to me. And those are the types of teams that if you're taking a bet on AI today, I'm looking at those teams.
Let's actually go to Michael. I think he had the hand up. We're getting the bug again where it goes up and down. Let's go to Michael, then we'll tag in Paul for the last statement.
I appreciate that, Sam. Yeah, no, I wanted to kind of just make the point that a lot of these takes are accurate in my opinion. I personally view the AI agents thing right now as a little bit of a grift, not for the teams that have been there for a long time building this, but for the teams who just all of a sudden pivoted once they saw that this was the new popular narrative. To me, it just seems a little bit more like a grift that most of these projects, most of these AI tokens are going to go to zero in the next 6 months, very similar to like what we saw with NBA Top Shot or with Zed Run in the last cycle, or with all the dead coins sitting on my old ledger from 2017 that don't exist anymore, that promised the world, the moon, the stars of the future that just never kind of materialized. I think a lot of these AI agents are the same way. I think there's definitely stock in teams using AI and utilizing AI to build games, things like that. But if your entire focus is on AI agents, and this AI agent focus was something extremely recent because of what you saw the markets doing, I have no belief in you, and I'm going to say, I'm going to keep my money where it should be going, and that's to long-term builders who are building long-term games. So that's kind of just my quick take on this. I know we have to move on.
Appreciate you keeping it short and sweet. Great stuff. Let's go over to Wild Paul for the last one.
I think these have been brilliant takes, and we've taken this conversation a lot of different places. I just wanted to say that, like, as a builder who's trying to reach consumers with products and trying to create something that ultimately humans want to spend their time and money on, that the interesting challenge here is just like, it's the difference between what an AI can do, which is like, we all can imagine that AIs are just going to do more and more. Like, we've been astonished with the growth in their capabilities over the last couple of years, versus what does a human want? Like, there's all these things that an AI can do, like, and so the reason this comes to mind is because, like, as a game builder, we've obviously had AIs that can kick the shit out of players in terms of skill level for many years. Like, the first AI we ever built in Age of Empires was better than any player because it can make 1,000 decisions a second, whatever. So that part's not hard. Like, AI can do that. But it turns out as players, like some of us are interested in AIs that can kick our ass, but it turns out a lot of us just want to play against another human and want to know that we're playing against another human and that we're not putting our skills up against some godlike AI that is just going to destroy us. And like, so then of course you say, well, but AIs are going to get more human in their behavior. Well, and that starts to turn into like, okay, if I'm as a consumer, a human consumer, and I have a choice between an app that is proving to me that I'm playing against other humans versus an app that I don't know, and it could be AIs, it could be humans. Like as a consumer, which one am I gonna be drawn to? Which one am I gonna spend my money on? And I think the answer to that is unknown. Like we're in uncharted territory now in terms of like the ability for AI to mimic human behavior to a degree that it's indistinguishable, and that the only way to actually prove humanity starts to become like the stuff that like WorldCoin is doing or whatever, like putting your humanity on a blockchain and proving it where an AI can't do. And then you also start getting into this world where you're like, wait, but what if it's not about what a human wants? What if it's actually about what other AIs want to spend their money and time on? Like, and it just gets crazy if you start going too far down that road. I have conversations with Gabe at Limit Break about this all the time because the only future he believes in is one where he's building entertainment for other AIs to consume, and it's just AIs against AIs and AIs spending each other's money and whatever. And you're just like literally, it's kind of like parallel. Like you're literally just giving your budget to an AI and watching what they do. Like that's a form of gameplay too. So who knows?
I have become only a firmer and firmer believer of dead internet theory, which, if anybody doesn't know what that is, Google it and just be super depressed on Wikipedia for the next couple of weeks of your life. Sorry in advance. We're moving on to the last topic of the day. Web3 gaming is currently run by studios in APAC, 39%, but 36% still from USA. The reason I wanted to bring this up was because it was in a stellar Game 7 report. Lems is going to pin that up. If you guys haven't read it and you're working in the Web3 gaming industry, you absolutely should take a glance because there's a ton of amazing insights in there. So shout out to Game 7. But we talked about this very same thing. We actually did a game mode called Raid Boss, where we assigned people to teams and then they had to debate whether we thought the West or the East was going to win. Spoiler alert, last time the East, meaning Asia, absolutely dominated. Seemed like people generally thought that they were going to absolutely destroy as far as Web3 gaming sort of market share going forward. But now we have a Trump presidency. People seem to think that means that regulations in the US around cryptocurrency are going to be pulled back, and these numbers are staggeringly close together. So, with that being said, what side are you taking now going forward? Do you think that US is going to win because it's a place that's had a lot of amazing innovation over the years whenever it comes to Silicon Valley type stuff? Or is it going to be APAC because they seem to be a more adaptive culture as well as having a deep history in success with gaming? Michael had the hand up first. Over to you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the East is about to absolutely sweep the West in terms of on-chain gaming. I think a multitude of factors play into this. First and foremost, the East right now in traditional gaming is kicking the West ass. In terms of the new games that are launching, the games where players are playing, the games that actually have retention, because the West is for some reason obsessed with kind of putting political things into their games, things like that that the East aren't obsessed with. Second, for specifically for the on-chain gaming, the East is much more acceptable of new things, whereas Western gamers are very much stuck in their ways. They're very much old school type style of gamers who they just want the game to be played. They want to pay for it one time, play it as much as they want, never have to pay for anything again. In the East, players demand pay to win in their games. They like in app purchases. They like being able to flex their status against other players, not by grinding the game, but by how much money they can throw into the game and show that I have more money than you. I think there's so many different things about the Eastern psychology of a gamer that will absolutely make sure that they have LeBron, Michael Jordan, and Kobe all in the same team dominating the East, or excuse me, the West, just because it's a different psychology of the gamer. And then the third thing here is that these gamers, they're more inclined to want to play a game for hours on end, where they're making $400 or $500 a month versus a Western gamer might not think that's enough money that they're making. They're going to complain about how much money they're making because obviously a lot of things are more expensive in the West, but people forget like the average salary in the Philippines is $400 a month. So to play a game where it's going to be more money than you could make working, a real life job, I just see it taking off so much faster and so much easier there. They're much more open to the idea of NFTs in game. I think Off the Grid really, really crushed it recently when they, paid all these Western streamers to play an NFT game because it kind of took away the stigma of NFTs for the West, but it's still a massive uphill mountain that we have to climb in the West to convince Western gamers like, hey, you should play this, you should get into this. And also, the East loves technology. They embrace new technology like crazy. The U.S. is obviously known for innovation, but we killed the Office of Technology back in the '90s, and I think the U.S. as a whole has really fallen off from knowing what kind of tech is out there. And I saw it the last time I was in Asia, when I was just like, wow, this seems like the future. Versus, in the West, people are still using systems that were built 50 years ago. So I think the East is absolutely going to sweep the the East is absolutely going to sweep the West in this competition. The West might catch up eventually, but I think it's literally generations away.
Great take from Michael. Looks like Sinjin finally woke up because we're talking about Asia. Sinjin, take it away, buddy. What do you got, East or West?
I have a little bit more of a nuanced take on it. I think it's going to be Western studios who launch in the East that are going to make it. And the reason I say that is because, um, the innovation on terms of the game development here in Asia, they're very good at cloning, and they're very good at like taking something that kind of already exists, but the design that's required for like an open economy is really fucking next level. And making a game that is truly original and innovative, that's definitely going to happen from the West. All like the really big, like even esports games, none of them were made out in the East. They were Western, but they were adopted in the East. And I think there's also nuance as well in the sense that like, yes, the Philippines and Indonesia are great for mobile games and stuff like that. But like for games like in like Korea or China or Japan or whatever like that, much higher value players and stuff like this, but like they need content that really works. And then if you're gonna push out in like the East as well, I mean, you need that strong content because they're all separate markets, right? It's not just one big monolithic market here. But if the game has that originality, has that how do I say that real edge in terms of the economy and stuff like that, that really works. The Eastern gamers or like East Asia or Southeast Asia will definitely adopt that game much more so. So I think it's definitely that nuance there.
Let's send it over to Oliver Maroney next. Oliver, who you got, East or West?
I'm going to go East on this. I think everybody kind of feels that way, it seems like so far. The reason I say it is that I can't remember who it was, the first person talking around just how Western folks are stuck in their ways in some regard. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Fortnite feels like it's been around for an eternity. COD feels like it's been around for an eternity. And not to say that the East doesn't play these games, but it feels like the players who play these games are stuck playing these games. And I am one of those players. I can speak from example. And so to me, and it was an eye-opening experience to me going to Korea last year, Singapore, Philippines, some of these places that you go to. I mean, the internet cafes and the openness in which people are willing and wanting to try new things, willing and wanting to play new games, excited about new features, not so stuck in their ways about certain things, makes me very optimistic about the East from a player-based perspective. Now, to Sinjin's point, I think the West may have an advantage in some of the way the games are designed here in the West and kind of the innovation potentially from some of the game studios out here. But from the East, I don't see a world in which we're going to get there overnight. We had this amazing off the grid moment with all these big streamers. We have, I think, a number of different games out right now, Parallel included, that have had huge, TCG players playing their games. And it doesn't feel like that adoption is moving as swiftly. Not to say that it won't, but it just doesn't feel like that's something that we can just overcome in like one cycle or a couple of games that are hits. Maybe it will happen. But to me, it feels like it's a little bit far-fetched at this point. So I would say the East feels more prime to be the example for Web3 gaming, at least from a player-based perspective.
Oliver doubting us. Okay, anyone at Magic Eden listening right now, DM me, please.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, wait! Remember that AI agent conversation that we just had around how if you like AI agents, you'll play Parallel, and if you don't like AI agents, then you'll get the Wild Pass. I know that was not an example, but Paul, I'm on your side now. I got a wild. I'm going Wild Pass route here.
Fuck yeah.
Great segue. Let's send it over to Paul.
Actually, I really don't have anything to add. Go buy Wild Pass. It's not financial advice.
All right, let's go to Justin Gary. Justin, any reason to believe that USA might be able to bring it back on track and dominate Web3 gaming?
Yeah, so it's really, I mean, I'm going to speak about it really specifically for my industry because like the trading card game space, like and tabletop gaming, there's been a very strong resistance to Web3, and the culture has backlash against it across Web2 gaming and tabletop gaming, right? And so the question is, can we overcome that, and can we bring the West on board? Because there's a lot more capital, in the West. There's unique. If we start that culture shifting, I think it'll move really fast. And so I put a lot of thought into this over the years. It's why we launched SoulForge Fusion the way we launched it, right? Tabletop game first, play the game, get hooked on the game. You can play it, you never have to touch a digital game. You can scan you can scan your decks into the digital account. You can play it as a Web2 game, never touch Web3, never get involved with it, totally fine, supports on its own. And then we layered in the Web3 elements to bring people over. And we did this in a very like slow, painful, methodical way. And we still got hate. We still got a ton of people that were against it. And it was only through like being out there and taking the heat and being into it that I was able to kind of convince people to come along. And I think whether it's us or it's somebody else, I do believe that someone's going to help make that breakthrough where all of a sudden now the domino is going to fall the other way, right? When we talk about games like Fortnite having a massive audience and always staying and people playing the same thing over and over again in the West, that's true. When they get hooked in, they stay for a long time. But I think we're near that place where the dominoes are going to fall the other way, and that stigma around it, that resistance to it, and some of that's in the stuff we're building, right? It's got to have better UI UX. It's got to have a better like on ramp, and that's the stuff that the people in this room are making happen. And I think once that happens, you're going to see the West really become a dominant force going forward.
Great takes, Justin Gary coming in like he's always been on Gamified. Let's go to Jerry next.
I think that the East is going to rinse the West for a little bit here in the short term and like midterm timeframes, and that's because of what Michael said about you know building in the East and what those people who play the games want and enjoy. And I think that the like gacha mechanics and the constant monetization that's thrown in your face in Eastern games is kind of aligned with like the Web3 principles. And I think that will be very like you're aligning those user cohorts in a much more cohesive way than is typically done from like Western studios. And I think that's going to unlock quite a bit, and it will make like the Web3 person who's interested in games more comfortable with like the Eastern style of doing things. And I think because of that, all those incentives being aligned across those like many different cohorts, you'll see the East start to take off. And I think the West will eventually catch up. But it's just a really different way of building games that I think Western teams don't typically do and have a lot to kind of explore, whereas the Eastern studios are already masters at it, and they're already so good at it. And, when you start to break into like the traditional gaming markets, the two sides don't understand each other. They're the reason like our games don't pop off there and their games don't ever pop off here. The Eastern teams have like multiple billion-dollar titles that people here have never even heard of, right? And that's why you always see like Western studios, they go and publish through NetEase or Tencent in when they are trying to break into the East, and it never really works out that well. Um, so, I think that the two sides are just so far apart, but I do think that like with the values that Web3 has and offers and the ways that you see people wanting to go, it's much more of an Asian style of building in gaming. And I think that's gonna, be pretty adopted here. I think the Western people that are in Web3 are very open to it, whereas traditional gamers aren't. But the people that are currently in Web3, it's actually kind of what they want and are asking for.
All right, we still got to get to the MVP of the show. I want to make sure we have time for that, but a lot of hands to get through. I'm going to go to Knock next. Knock, tell us why you're chanting USA, 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 even as a Canadian. Tell us, Knock.
I was gonna say I'm Canadian, so I'm definitely not doing that. But what I will say is, no, definitely agree. I think the East is going to run the show for an extended period of time, and I think that there are a couple of factors in the West specifically. In addition to a ridiculously confusing regulatory climate that most of the people on this panel have had to navigate over the course of the last few years, you're fighting building a game, which is difficult to do. You're learning how to build that game in conjunction with blockchain tech, which is difficult to do. You're trying to design systems with that blockchain tech that your consumers in the West don't really understand. It's difficult to do. And on top of all of that, your target consumers, Western gamers, for the most part, hate you simply because you are blockchain. They don't know what it means. They don't care. They just dislike you. So you're building a game which is already, you're 3 or 4 steps behind just to begin with. When you're looking at Eastern markets, they're much more accustomed to over financialization of games. I can't remember who mentioned it. Not only they are accustomed to it, but they demand things like pay to win in a lot of the games, especially in the mobile titles that they create. I think when you combine that in an overall more friendly ecosystem from the consumers, in addition to the fact that for the most part, you're talking about things like mobile games and clones, to Sinjin's point, which are easier to spin up, can get out faster, you have more shots on goal for a lot cheaper than building with an all-Western team anyway, coupled with the fact that the population is just significantly larger than the US, or even if you include Europe, most of that population is still significantly smaller than what we've got in Eastern markets. And I think you've got a perfect storm for Eastern game devs to continue building products that get in the hands of people who are familiar with the concept, who want to see things, who are generally speaking more blockchain accepting. It's faster for you to get products out. If your product doesn't work, you can get another one out quicker than somebody in the West who's building with an all-Western team burning $300,000 a month. I think you're going to see more products just through sheer force of like orders of magnitude larger ecosystem in the East. That being said, if the regulatory environment clears up here, I think there's an opportunity for Western teams to build products. And I know that this is a overly hyperbolic statement, but the idea that a game needs to be new or novel or innovative to find success is ridiculous to me. I think clones, we've seen it, we've seen this in real life. Clones do really well. They come out a lot quicker, and a lot of the times, especially in Eastern markets, they outperform or very closely similarly perform their Western counterparts, which were the quote unquote original version of that title. So I just think through population size alone, you're going to see more Western titles in the short term dominate the Web3 eco.
Yeah, you really touched on something there, Knock, that's been living rent free in my head. You got 1 billion people in China, you got 1 billion people in India, you've got diehard audiences in Japan and Korea, and that's all without mentioning the Philippines. I don't love our odds. Can anybody reel me in from the ledge here? For the love of God, let's go back to Sinjin, then we'll go to Wild Paul.
Yeah, I just want to give some, like, again, context here is that, you know, all the Web3 games that are doing really well in their assets right now, honestly, they have a silent cohort of like Chinese like investors. Like that goes across the board. Whenever you see like a floor price just pump for like a month or like a week, it's all the Chinese cabal coming in and they're doing their thing. The biggest thing with Asia is that there's not this huge divide between like investors and speculators and gamers because the default is if you're under 40 years old and you're like an East Asian person, you play games. Like it's like literally like going to the movies. There's no like distinction, right? So turning that kind of gear to going to, okay, this game is good, then I'm going to look at it as a gamer, not just as a speculator. That's the one really huge benefit in terms of adoption. I think the other major adoption factor in Asia is that, um, in terms of like from an Asian dev point of view, okay, and where the market's at. Like I'm in Korea, right? And I said to a whole bunch of like crypto investors who are like really top level in Korea. I had a dinner with them and I said, how are NFTs in Korea? And they're like, it's fucking garbage. Like they didn't even want to talk about it. It's like so fucking dead. People lost so much money on it. Like, and so like the sentiment around like Web3 gaming, they don't use that term here. And I talked to another conglomerate like media guy and he knew stuff about gaming because they own a gaming studio in their portfolio. And they're like, yeah, that play to earn GameFi stuff is just like really garbage. Right. And I said, well, do you know about what's kind of going on the innovations wise? They're like, has there been any innovation? So for the last 3 years, like the view of like Eastern developers doing Web3 gaming in terms of like, GameFi, whatever like that, it's all garbage. Right. So what I'm trying to say is that like, the best player base you're going to get is definitely out in Asia, right? But the best product market fit that's going to come from is definitely going to be from the West, because the Asian developers have no clue what they're doing. Because the fact of the matter is, yes, they're good at cloning, yes, they're good at monetizing, and yes, they're good at all this other stuff, right? But this is next level game design. I can't even stress this enough. Like, yeah, like Paul will say this, like everyone will say this who's been in game design for like more than like 10, 15 years, right? This is not the kind of thing that like a beginner or an advanced or even a mature game designer, you have to be so fucking talented to make this work. And in Asia, they just don't have that talent because, you know, the market hasn't moved with it. So if you, like for us, okay, we're finally going to officially launch. Game's done. We're going to launch in March in Thailand as a national launch, like a total national launch, right? Full on, like everything. And then once we get that player base, right? What we're going to do is then we're going to go to the US and then we're going to say, hey, look, we have this like global player base available for you in terms of like liquidity, right? And it's all concentrated here with specific types of PC players that, you know, we can get en masse, even though PC gaming is not maybe the most dominant form of gaming now in Thailand, but there's because of the population, there's just so many of them. So I think there's definitely a hybrid approach here. And, you know, it is 2024 coming to 2025. I mean, global liquidity is a thing. So again, Western game developers, I think are going to really make it work if you can find the right marketing channels for Asia.
All right, Michael and Wild Paul still have their hands up. I'm going to give you guys each a quick statement, and then I'm going to ask you to also finish with your MVP vote so we can start rattling those off. Let's go to Wild Paul first. Paul, what's your take on East versus West, and who's your MVP?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go for MVP first, and I'm just gonna tag our tatted lawyer, who first time on the show and just killed it. Fantastic takes. So I don't know. This might be the first time that somebody the first time on the show got MVP, but that's my vote. On the East versus West thing, you guys just heard what Sinjin said. And so here's another prediction for the future. In the future, Sinjin and I are going to be working together in two parallel businesses that merge and create $100 billion of value. Because my take is literally the counter or the what is the word? The complement to exactly what Sinjin just said. So here's the analogy I want to use, just real quick. Look at how film and TV have come together. Those two things can be a match made in heaven, or TV shows and gaming is another example of this. But history is riddled with companies that are just like, it's a great game, we'll just make a film out of it, and it's disastrous. Or it's a great film, we'll make a game out of it, it's disastrous. But when those two groups have found a way to work together, it's some of the biggest, most spectacular successes we've ever seen, like Arcane just now, like Last of Us, etc. This is the same thing for East meets West. I can't be as generalized as Sinjin about like, all Eastern developers are this and all Western developers are this. But what I have seen in the history of my career is when a Western developer who has that game design talent that Sinjin is talking about works with an Eastern publisher or distributor who understands truly how to scale that cutting edge game design into the East, you have the greatest successes of all time. That's where you get your StarCrafts, your World of Warcrafts, like Riot games. Like they're all the same thing. If you peer into the covers, you find this was a cutting edge Western game design matched with a cutting edge Eastern distribution strategy. That's going to be the biggest games in Web3. So just hold on. It'll be me and Sinjin.
Great take. Love that. Well, I guess StarCraft is my RuneScape. So if you talk about RuneScape, Knock is going to call you a genius. If you talk about StarCraft, I'm going to call you a genius. Let's go to Michael. Michael, what's your final take on this one, and who's your MVP of the episode?
Yeah, my final take on this is I did want to I think Sinjin mentioned like PC games and things like that. I wanted to kind of touch on the idea that I think mobile games are about to absolutely take over the entire world. I think there's a lot of Western gamers who might disagree with me, but the entire rest of the world 100% backs this idea. And as mobile games start to build more dominance, you're going to see the Web3 or the on-chain gaming become more and more prevalent in these areas where mobile games are exploding because the NFT marketplace, or excuse me, the NFT market in general was one big gotcha game back in the day when you just put money in, you didn't know what you were going to get. The thing revealed, you're either happy or pissed, and you put more money into another project. Same exact idea as gotcha games So I don't see a world where on chain doesn't get dominated by the East just for these simple principles. But I love the idea of kind of merging the East and the West in terms of the development in the West and then the distribution of the East. I think that's a genius kind of take on it. In terms of my MVP, I think I'm going to go with the MVP being Koji. I really, really enjoyed a lot of his takes today, and I think he really crushed it. But thank you so much for having me on for my first time.
Dude, absolute pleasure was all mine. Big shout out for getting the coveted Paul vote. You love to see it. I see the hand up from Koji. I'm going to go to Knock real quick because I know he has a hard stop in just a second. Knock, who's your MVP of the episode, buddy?
Yeah. First, honorable mention to Michael. Absolutely fucking crushed it. Appreciate when you people come on, and this group is fucking chaotic and it's wild. You hold your own. It was great. MVP for this episode is John Allen for one big reason, and we talk about this a lot. Not afraid to give contrarian takes or go after people for taking takes that they disagree with. We need more of it. I love it. It's fun. It's part of what makes this show so great is that we disagree with each other all the time. It's not just an echo chamber. It's got to be John.
One of my absolute favorite things about this show as well. Let's go to Koji, then we'll tag in John.
Yeah, I mean, my MVP. This is kind of a cheat, but I'm just voting for both the people that I haven't shared the stage with yet because they seem to fit right in. A lot of times new people come in and they're just like a little bit timid, or we're just a bunch of assholes who talk over each other, but they weren't afraid to just like muscle their way in there and be like, actually, like fuck off. Also, there was a lot of TCG talk, and that makes my dick hard. So, thanks.
Founder of Parallel, by the way. Big shout out, great votes all around. Loved Michael and Justin. Agree, it's an intimidating show. So whenever you're able to hold your own, it always sticks out. Let's go over to Oliver next.
Hold your own what?
MVP. I'm going Koji. I like the newcomers as well. I think they were great. But Koji, I was literally laughing out loud for probably a good 30 seconds to a minute on mute. So I have to go Koji for the comedy and entertainment.
We'll take it. Let's go over to John Allen. John, who you got for MVP?
Hey man, I have to give it back to Knock. I mean, I think he always keeps it spicy, and like I just love the banner and love the Hey, I'm willing to take kind of like the opposite side of this stuff and mix it up because it's like I absolutely hate being on spaces where it's just like an everyone agrees fest, a yes and fest, right? But definitely want to give an honorable mention to Koji. I mean, I think it was consistently super real, super great takes, super nuanced takes. So it's just overall great panels, but I have to go with Knock.
100%. One of the things that always makes this panel special is even if people do agree, they're always able to find a wrinkle or a nuance that expands the conversation in an interesting direction. I think that's so important. Let's go over to big Will Spangler. Will, great to have you back on again, man. Who's your MVP, buddy?
Yeah, it's got to be John, I think, for all the reasons that Knock outlined. It was hype here in his takes.
What about Mr. Justin? Gary, Justin did a fantastic job on the space as well today. Who's your MVP, brother?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This was an awesome group. A lot of great takes. I'm actually going to give it to Wild Paul. I thought he had a lot of great insights. I think obviously building in the TCG space, a lot of things I resonated with, and we came at this from different angles, but illustrated a lot of things. So I really got a lot out of it. So looking forward to more times to connect.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
Can't wait to have you back on as well, Justin. Excited to, well, you can rarely go wrong whenever you vote for Mr. Wild Paul. Let's go over to Jerry, get his MVP vote.
Yeah, you guys are idiots. It's very clearly the tatted lawyer, Michael. This guy fucking crushed it, man. No, John, you do great on the show as well. I think I glazed you last time, but Michael fucking crushed it and made points that I pretty much agreed with across the board. So I thought he did an excellent job.
Well, agreeing with Jerry is not always the best thing. However, we will allow it on this episode. No, hard to agree. Michael killed it. Sinjin, what about you? What was your MVP, brother?
I was going to give it to Michael, the tatted lawyer, but he said that shit about mobile games dominating everything, and fuck you. And yeah, esports is never going to really be on mobile because those are not fucking real gamers anyways. They're fucking puzzle fucking people doing gacha
They're
bullshit.
Midwest moms, dude.
Come play
Yeah,
my
okay,
mobile
yeah,
games,
yeah,
St. John.
Midwest. Okay, go ahead, make the Midwest Mom Esports Association. Good luck, guys, on
Do
the
it.
mobile phones. But it was a good try right up into the end. You had my vote. I'm going to give it to Wild Paul, because he's not going to win it this time. So he gets my vote.
Sinjin,
Love you too, man.
it's only because you haven't played my mobile game yet. That's the reason. Let me get you in there.
Dang. Smooth with it, Michael. Nice work. All right, Lems, who's your MVP, brother?
Man, today was like such a good episode with so many bangers. Like trying to actually pick a winner is a struggle. I'm gonna go with Justin, but man, like Ted Lawyer, Michael, like joining us today, John on our heater, like Koji, Paul, like literally, like choosing today was probably the hardest of all the other MVP picks.
Both the newbies on today's show cashing in with some MVP votes. You love to see it. That means Koji got 2. Looks like John got 2, but Michael's bringing home with 3 MVP votes. That means he gets 60 seconds of FaceTime. Plug whatever you want. Take it away, Michael.
Hey, thank you so much. So I'd love to plug Andromeda, introduce you guys all to the Andromeda platform. We're essentially a platform that merges gaming with VTube avatar streaming. So we developed our own 3D model technology. 3D model file format and AI motion tracking technology that allows you to use the same 3D models that you play within game as fully rigged VTubing avatars. We want to partner with every single game in the space. We want you
Oh
guys to upload your
shit!
models of ours.
I want that right now. Let's talk, dude. Slide into my DMs.
Yeah, come talk to us. We're going to be launching the VTubing platform Q1. We're not in competition with Twitch, Kick, anything like that. You can connect your stream keys, and then the next time you go live, you're live as your 3D avatar rather than as yourself. No extra hardware is needed, no
Yeah,
sensors, no haptic suits. Come talk to me. We're building some crazy shit
yeah,
over here.
dude. Everybody says I'm Bulgar and Wildcard, so I'm gonna be Bulgar and Wildcard. We're doing this.
Come on down. I love it. I actually love play wild card at the Magic Eden House over the weekend. I thought it looked sick. So absolutely, let's talk.
Thanks, man.
And just like that, another beautiful connection was made on the Gamified panel. You love to see it. Let's give a frosty shout out to Avalanche and their awesomeness that's powering it all. Avalanche is the official blockchain of Gamified. Why slog uphill with sluggish systems when Avalanche makes deploying your own L1 as smooth as a fresh coat of powder? Affordable, accessible, and absolutely arctic, Avalanche is carving the future of Web3 gaming faster than a snowboard on a double black diamond. Ready to answer the call of the cold? Reach out to me, Park, Coop, Wills, etc. Connect with the AVAX team and don't forget to drop those magic words. Gamified sent me. Thanks to AVAX for being the official chain of Gamified. And we got to give a thunderous thank you to Star Atlas, the official game of Gamified, our interstellar sponsor. Star Atlas has spent the bear market building a universe, pushing Web3 boundaries and setting new standards in transparency and player ownership. With Sage, a test bed for their economy, they're already processing 3.2% of all daily Solana transactions, a feat that's no small step. Star Atlas believes in showing, not telling, so I'm not going to spoil 2025 for you yet. Go to play.staratlas.com and check out the Golden Carnival to get involved. Remember, with Star Atlas, you're not just a player, you're a pioneer. And if anybody missed it, last night I quote tweeted a Star Atlas thread where they have been posting tons of gameplay videos. If you haven't seen Star Atlas in a while, I really do suggest you go check that out. That's not part of my contract. I was not incentivized. They didn't tell me to tweet it, anything. I just saw the gameplay and I was like, holy shit, like this looks awesome. So if you haven't seen it in a while, check it out. And of course, as we hit the final boss of today's adventure, let's give one last big old GG to Game 7, the team flipping the script on gaming's end game. Forget grinding for scraps. These pixel-powered pioneers are flipping the loot table with 80% of revenue going straight back to players. You love to see it. Their tools are like cheat codes for developers and gamers alike. Summon to recruit players, hyperplay to discover your next obsession, and world builder to craft fair economies. With 150 games already on board, Game 7 isn't just pressing continue, they're breaking records. If you're ready to respawn into a better gaming future, visit game7.io and press play on the next era. Big thank you to all of our amazing sponsors. John Allen, thank you so much for joining us from Game 7. Oliver Maroney coming up, head of gaming at OpenSea, coming up from the audience. You love to see it. Sinjin, of course, from Meiji, Koji from Parallel, Tatted Lawyer from Andromeda, Wild Paul from Wild Card, Jerry from Uptick, Spang, congratulations on the new role at AVAX. You love to see it. Justin Gary at Soulforge. Man, people were playing Soulforge all week at Art Basel, and it got me all FOMO'd up. I actually brought some cards home with me, really excited to dig into it. Congratulations on all the success you're having so far, and huge thank you to all the panelists and amazing people in the audience. Love you guys. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Big smooches to the whole gang.